Hi guys, it's Sam. Today I have quite a different video for you, and I would have to say that this has been probably the hardest video in my mind to wrap around doing. And I can't say that I'm entirely comfortable with it, but I think sometimes we grow by pushing ourselves through uncomfortable situations. So today's topic is going to be about dealing with anxiety and depression and journaling. It's something that I've thought a lot about, but I don't really talk about it much either here or on Instagram because we usually try to keep our social media posts, lighthearted and encouraging. And I think that that's all good. But I think that we also need to be honest with others about our struggles, because being honest about our struggles helps other people realize that they're not alone in their journey if they're struggling with the same things. So before I get into what I do or how I work through these challenges in my own life, I'm going to give you a little bit of information about me and my personal struggles with these things in my life. I have dealt with anxiety for as long as I can remember. As a child, I remember having anxiety attacks. I've also personally, don't be cleaning yourself up here, Jasper. I've also personally always dealt with obsessive compulsive behavior, and I kind of say that because I kind of joke around about it here. I try to be lighthearted about my struggles. I don't think that it's a funny thing that you have to deal with that, but I try to find the humor in it. I mean, one of my favorite shows is Monk, and it's a comedy about a detective who has a very severe case of obsessive compulsive disorder. So when I joke and talk about how my OCD can't handle this or can't handle that, I'm being completely and totally serious with you. I don't get all into the things that I struggle with day to day, but I definitely have things that I can't help myself from doing, patterns and behaviors that I can't get away from because of what I struggle with. I've also dealt with depression and eating disorders and a whole slew of things. And I have had times in my life where I have had to lean upon medication, and times in my life where I have refused to take medication because I felt like I could handle it myself. And so I feel like in my 40 years now that I have run the whole gamut of life with dealing with things like this. On top of all of that, I now deal with PMDD. So I know about these things, and no person is the same, and we all deal with things differently, and we all have different severities. I wish sometimes that I could be the kind of person who just lives a carefree life, who never thinks about these things, but the reality is that is not me. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what I do about that as far as journaling and what I don't do, because some questions have come up in comments, and I thought, maybe it's time that I talk about these things. So here we go. I tend not to journal a lot in terribly anxious times. Last year, I struggled very much with my anxiety. It was at an all-time high. I felt like it completely took over my life, and I did have to go back on medication for several months. I was upset because I gained a bunch of weight, but it made me feel free, and I was able to get through that period of time. However, because of that, I feel like I wasn't into the habit of writing things down because I didn't want to remember those things. Part of my anxiety and the way I hold on to things obsessively, my mind does a wonderful job with remembering things that bother me on their own, and I don't want to help it along by writing those things down. I feel like writing things down for me solidifies things in my mind. It almost cements them in. So when I'm writing a shopping list, it's very easy for me to remember, even if I've forgotten my list at home, the things that I've written down. And so in the same way, I don't want to journal those things onto paper because it helps solidify them in my mind. And I don't need extra reminders of things that hurt me or bother me or scare me. When I am in a place where I can't put things out of my mind, I have other coping mechanisms. I pray about it. If I can't get things out of my head, I'll talk to my husband about it. I would rather talk to him and get it out into the air than write them down, because he helps me and helps strengthen me, and the paper, like I said, solidifies things. If those things don't help and I go through several days of obsessive anxiety behavior, then I will usually need to lean upon medication. I have found with the PMDD, especially if I'm tracking my cycles, it is something that creeps up about 2 weeks to 1 week before the start of my period. And so I have been able to take medication only during those times so that I kind of get it before it gets out of control, while not needing to take medication like every single day of the month. And then I stop taking it as soon as my period begins, because for me, that's when usually the symptoms eliminate. There are some months that doesn't follow that exact pattern. And then I have medicine that I can just take for anxiety as needed, that helps me with that. So I definitely have like my arsenal of tools that I have at my disposal, and I kind of just use them as needed. But journaling through that is just something that I choose not to do for me personally. And so if that's something that helps you, I'm really happy that it does. But for me, it's just not what I've been able to find useful in my life. That being said, so how do I then use my journal? I focus on the positives, and maybe it was just a really bad day and I was very anxious, very nervous. I will pick one thing that happened during the day and I'll write about that. So usually stupid stuff happens at work every single day, and it's something that I can definitely write about, a silly situation that, dumb people doing dumb things, and I'll journal about that. If I can't think of anything positive happening that day, either in work or out of work, and it's just been a really horrible day, I may choose just not to journal at all. Maybe I will letter a word, maybe I'll draw a picture, or maybe I'll just leave that page blank. For me, I'd rather come back to a blank page and not have anything that triggers me than see something that will trigger me and bring back feelings that I don't need to be feeling, because I can be triggered on a really good day by reading something or remembering something, and I just don't put things out there for myself that I know could harm me in the future, because I do like to go back through these books and I like to read and see things, and so I don't want to ruin possibly a good day in the future with something that is going to be hurtful for me. Also, because I don't tend to write every single day, just because I have a blank page doesn't mean that this was an incredibly bad day. It could just have been that I fell asleep before I journaled and I got really busy for the next couple of days, and so I was just really bad about journaling. So a blank page isn't a trigger for me because I don't have any idea why I didn't write that day. I don't look at it and say, oh, I must have been really anxious that day, because that's not true. So I don't even go there in my mind. So as you can see, this is a very personal video to do, talking about the things that I struggle with. Maybe you're like me and you struggle with similar things. Perhaps I said something helpful in this video that will help you on your own journey. If you don't struggle with any of these things, I am so happy for you, because I can't imagine living my life without having those things as part of me. However, that is how God made me, and I am sure that I am unique. And Even if you don't struggle with these specific things that I've talked about in this video, I know everybody has something. There isn't a person out there who lives a perfect life that doesn't deal with something in their lives. I feel like we're all made individuals and that God made me this way for a reason, and I know that I've been able to empathize and sympathize with people who are in situations similar to mine because I know of these struggles, and I feel like that was all done for a good reason. I hope you found this video helpful in some way. If nothing else, that you understand a little bit more about me. I always like to be transparent and honest about who I am, and I guess this kind of takes it up a notch more than I have in the past, but there it is. There's part of my journey and part of my story, and I hope that you find something here helpful. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.